Regular season is wrapped up. Let's play talk about some regular season superlatives. You ready to rock and roll?
I sure am.
All right, let's
Sure
have
am.
some fun. We're going to start with the best play/game of the year. I'm going to toss it over to you.
Yeah, this one's easy for me. The best play of the year, Saturday night, Soldier Field, overtime, Caleb Williams to DJ Moore on a dime, 60 yards, unbelievable catch, unbelievable throw, overtime victory, crazy finish to the game. And as much as that's my bias, it's also been voted by the NFL audience because it was the most ridiculous end to a game. And
Mhm.
it felt like finally, as a Bears fan, they had shaken the Packers off their back. That was such a major victory for the Chicago Bears, and it was a turning point for them in the season. So obviously, I love Caleb, I love the team, but the catch, the throw, the moment, overtime, the game, Saturday night, Bears Packers in December in the cold. Yeah, there ain't nothing better than that.
No, so I have to. That one is up there, right? And that's probably the initial one that came to mind. I'm gonna go with the Seattle Seahawks and the Los Angeles Rams. The play was the play for the 2 point conversion. It was supposed to be a
Yeah.
quick screen that hit off of the defender's head, bounced forward. So a pass that went backwards, bounced forward into the end zone, and then running back Zach Charbonnet they picked it up for the 2 point conversion, which set the stage for them to have a 16-point comeback, which also set the stage for the Seattle Seahawks to be the number one overall seed.
Yep.
So that one play had so many different implications wrapped into it. So I think if I had to be honest, I think we tied for first, right? Because your play was quite amazing too. We're talking about a walk-off touchdown, Caleb Williams to DJ Moore
Mine
in
was the
Chicago.
best play. Yours was the wonkiest. Like that was the
Yeah.
weirdest because it was like did that just happen
Yep.
moment? Like you sat there and you watched it because there wasn't anything impressive about the Zach Charbonnet 2 point conversion, but it still set up what was an unbelievable moment and comeback. So I like it. I'll give it the weirdest play of
The
the year.
weirdest play.
And I
Okay.
and I and I have the best play.
I'll take it. Let's do this. The biggest disappointment from the 2025 NFL season.
I took this as biggest disappointment in a team, and there were quite a few options to go here, but I am going with the Kansas City Chiefs.
I knew
And that's because the Kansas City Chiefs, when you have the prime of your team and the prime of your young quarterback, and the relationship that has been Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes with Andy Reid and Spagnuolo as the defensive coordinator, this core, after losing the way they lost last year in the attempt to get a three-peat, they were the second favorite to come in. They were the favorite to win the division. They wanted to go win 10 years in a row in the AFC West. And to fall to not even make the postseason is something that if you told anybody in the media going into this year, the Kansas City Chiefs are not going to make the playoffs, everybody would have been, no way, right? That's the face you would have gotten. There's no chance that that's happening. So as far as disappointment goes, it's hard to be any more disappointing than the Kansas City Chiefs missing the playoffs this year. And don't blame the Patrick Mahomes injury. They were out of it before that.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the Baltimore Ravens, right? And this may sound recency bias, but man, just not to make the playoffs when you have Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, a team of that character, that culture, right? And it wasn't as though the Pittsburgh Steelers won the division by winning 12, 13 games, right? It was a 10-win team, and for the Baltimore Ravens, we probably have 4 or 5 instances where we say, if y'all just did Baltimore Ravens football things, y'all
Yeah.
win that football game, right? Not fumbling, tackling, not having blown coverages, catching the football, right? Just little things like that. I think it's a disappointment not to have the Baltimore Ravens in. Let's go this. The biggest surprise of the 2025 NFL season.
So this is where I got to work the Ravens in because this is the biggest surprise in a negative way. This
Okay.
was the team that was favored to win the Super Bowl. This was the most shocking to me because disappointing was Kansas City, but that roster has always had question marks. The surprise to me was how bad the Ravens have been this year. To see this Ravens team that we have literally my entire life, we know who this Ravens team is, what they're accustomed to be, the fundamentals, the things that they do. This season made no sense. It was a surprise from the beginning to the end. And quite frankly, that first game against Buffalo, where they went up big and then lost that game, felt like a bad omen for the season. It was just, they never put it together the whole year. And there's not a one individual thing or you can't pinpoint, obviously Lamar's injuries, but this started way before Lamar got injured. This team was a huge disappointment, but to me, a bigger surprise in a negative way that they never put it together after being the favorite to win the Super Bowl coming into the year.
Yep, I told you the biggest irony of this whole entire thing is they missed going to the playoffs on a last second field goal, and
Crazy.
their Hall of Fame kicker gets suspended in the summer. Right,
Yep.
that's the Baltimore Ravens season wrapped into a bow. Let's do this. The biggest. Oh, I did the biggest surprise right.
Yeah, I was like, "What you doing? You skipping yourself?"
I'm
I'm
sorry,
sitting over here
I
waiting.
started talking about those Baltimore Ravens again. I'm gonna go with this biggest surprise. Daniel Jones is a good quarterback. I think that's the
Yeah,
biggest surprise is that we found that out. I think we all thought that this was going to take a year's type of situation and experiment, right? As far as with Daniel Jones and even him going to the Indianapolis Colts, him beating out Anthony Richardson. I don't think that was a no to Daniel Jones being talented, right? People didn't think that. They just like, yeah, Anthony Richardson is that far behind. But man, he had these guys rocking and rolling. They were tops in the AFC. He was making good throws. He was playing good football. That he can be a franchise quarterback. So the biggest surprise that I take away from this is that the Indianapolis Colts have a franchise quarterback because Daniel Jones is a good quarterback. And we thought hope was done leaving the New York Giants.
100%. I like that. I like that you went in a positive direction. I had to work both the Chiefs and the Ravens in, so I worked around it.
All right, let's go this. The worst second half failure by a football team.
Oh, this one's easy. This is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Good Lord. I think they ended the year 1-8. This was a team that, if you looked at the midway point, and I went back and I looked at some of the articles and the midseason superlatives, this was a team that was favored, a top three favorite to win the Super Bowl at the midway point. This was a team that was firing on all cylinders. This was a Baker Mayfield who was leading the MVP candidacy in late October, early November. This team fell apart in a way that, quite frankly, deserves some serious critique and criticism. And this is an organization I know really well. I love the coaching staff. I know Jason Light really well, but this was a gut check moment for this Bucs team. And I know they beat that Carolina Panthers team in that last game, but quite frankly, they barely beat that team and there were some questionable calls. So I was happy to see the Panthers get in because the Bucs just didn't deserve it. This was a total collapse in the second half of the season, and they have a lot of questions to address this offseason when they come back to play next season.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I agree with that. I'm gonna go second half failure. I'm going to Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas
Mm.
Cowboys on Thursday night, Thanksgiving, we watched them beat a healthy Kansas City Chiefs team, and everybody said, could they make a run? Since that very moment, since Thanksgiving, they lost
I did.
4 of their last 5 football games and still had the Dallas Cowboys collapse, right? And I think it was right when you're starting to build momentum. How do you go on and lose 4 of the last 5, right? And you have all these different teams jockeying for playoff position, and it's not like y'all had a murderous road schedule, right? You lost to the Minnesota Vikings, you lost to the New York Giants, right? The one team you did beat was the Washington Commanders. The Chargers came in and thumped y'all, and then you lost to the Detroit Lions also. So winnable games, right? I think obviously the best team out of that bunch was the Los Angeles Chargers, but the Lions you could have beat, the Vikings you should have beat, the Giants you should have beat. So I'm sitting there wondering, I'm like, man, like that's just a second half failure that y'all couldn't get the double digit wins, losing 4 of the last 5 games to wrap up the season.
They definitely were disappointing as well. I just never believed in that defense to actually take them anywhere. So I knew eventually it would come collapsing. And
Well,
dear
remember
God,
everybody was trending, and not us, right? But that's why I put it as a second half failure because remember everybody got excited. It was like, oh, this defense might be
oh yeah,
good after they beat the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Quentin Williams, Logan Wilson, and you know what I have to say that both of those guys were on defenses that were bad. So how could they go from that point to both on bad
that part.
defenses, then getting on the Dallas Cowboys, and in some way miraculously now they're going to play great? Like that doesn't work like that. So yeah, tough
Nope.
situation for the Dallas Cowboys, and they stayed on brand with their second half collapse. Let's go with this best offseason acquisition.
This one's easy for me. This is Stephon
Ooh.
Diggs for the New England Patriots. He was
I'm mad.
spectacular this season for Drake May. This was a home run acquisition for the New England Patriots. They took a lot of heat. He obviously has found himself in the news outside of football quite a few times. But when it comes to him on the field and who he has been every bit of what they needed. And Stephon Diggs was, to me, that this Patriots team is nowhere near where they are without him. He has absolutely been a home run for the New England Patriots and was the best offseason acquisition.
I should have went first, Paige DeMarcos. I should have went first. You stole my answer, and it was an answer I didn't think you were gonna go with. I thought you was gonna stay away from Stephon Diggs. But
Mm-mm.
I have to double down with Stephon Diggs, and I'm gonna call Stephon Diggs the quarterback whisperer. Right? You're talking about he
Yeah.
did it with Josh Allen, got a young quarterback to turn things around and play at an All-Pro level. Now he has Drake May. He came in immediate impact to Drake May. Drake May is playing at an All-Pro level. So Stephon Diggs, without a doubt, and you think about everything that happened in the offseason, everything that's happening in season. Guess what? When you put the guy in between the white lines, he delivers. He delivers for your offense, and more importantly, he delivers for your quarterback.
I have a message for you, Stefan. Do yourself a favor and stop getting yourself in trouble off the field. Hire an assistant, dump Cardi B, and get yourself a homegirl that will get you off out of the streets. Because this man got to get out of the streets. He is going to get himself in trouble. But as far as acquisition, only the football side goes, it's by far and away Stefan Diggs.
Yep. Let's go to his best breakout player of the year.
This one's easy for me too. This is Drake May.
Okay.
Drake May came into this year and has, as much as I didn't have him as my MVP, he was right up there at the end. And the progression that he has made year over year, the moments he's had, I understand the schedule hasn't been as strong and all these things, but to think that this team is in the position they're in, they took out the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen coming off of an MVP year. To overcome that, to take the step forward that they did, they could not have done that without Drake May. And he has shown that he is every bit of being the future quarterback for the New England Patriots. So to me, he is by far and away the breakout player of the year.
I like that. I'm gonna go with, and this is one that's be a little bit controversial because we've stood on the opposite side for a conversation with this young man. I'm gonna go with George Pickens. George Pickens is the breakout player of the year. He finished the NFL third in receiving yards, right? And this was the second time I believe in his career that he went over 1,000 receiving yards. But he had 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns, and now everybody's talking about he needs to get paid the big bucks, right? So I think talking about breakout player. There was one time and moment where we talked about George Pickens being the best wide receiver in the NFL. So to go from, we knew with the Pittsburgh Steelers, you were a pretty talented wide receiver, you were pretty good, to people talking about you're a top 5, top 10 wide receiver in the entire NFL, I think that's a breakout player of the year.
Go on and pay him as a top 10 guy and see what happens. That's going to be.
It's two different arguments, right? It's two different arguments.
Listen, he's still the same dude. Still the same knucklehead. Nobody's ever doubted the talent. Not even coming out of college. The reason he slipped to the second round never had anything to do with the talent. It's all about who he is and his work ethic. Cowboys fans, just reminder, this was a contract year. This is the best you're ever going to get. So I get it. He had a spectacular year, but I would be real nervous about paying him big dollars based off of the shenanigans he still found himself in this year.
Yep. All right, let's do this. The best overall storyline for the 2025 NFL regular season.
Oh, I was going to work the Bears in here at least for one, and this is easy. As a Chicago Bears fan, I have never in my lifetime been able to trust a team in the last 2 minutes of the game. Caleb Williams leads the NFL with 6 game-winning drives in the last 2 minutes. This is a team that came into the year that people had question marks. They started the year 0-2, and they came on to win the NFC North, a division that everybody outside of it, this is the second best division in football. You had the team that you thought was going to be there isn't in it. Both the Vikings and the Lions, both this came in this year and didn't do as well as they expected. The Packers are still going to make the postseason, but for the Chicago Bears in Ben Johnson's first year, to win the NFC North and be the 2 seed in the NFC is insane. There is no chance. Even the highest believers of the Chicago Bears, nobody thought that they were going to be a 2 seed. Nobody thought they were going to come in and win the division. The hope was to be a wild card team. They have far exceeded expectations. So as far as storylines go, what a time to be alive. Caleb Williams is now the leading passer for the Chicago Bears offense, and that tells you exactly what you need to know about what has been the Chicago Bears offense. It's only year 2, and he's already the number 1 guy in the history of the Chicago Bears. It's
That
going to be good. It's been a great story to watch all year long.
Yeah, that's pretty insane, honestly. To
Ye-
think about that from that perspective, that's
Yep.
that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. I'm gonna go with this. Is partially some of what you have, and mine is kind of mixed to a bigger overall picture, right? And the best storyline is when you look at Caleb Williams, Drake May, Bo
Yep.
Nix, Jaden Daniels. These quarterbacks were as advertised, and they were on the trend to be as good as that 2004 quarterback class, which was Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, and Philip Rivers. All four of these young men will have playoff appearances wrapped under their belt just under year two, right? All four of those young men look like to be the franchise signal callers for their franchises and playing good football and playing at a very high level and also taking on a lot of responsibility. These are not situations where they're kind of, I guess, put in insulated situation where they're not asked to
Mhm.
do much. So I'm excited about that 2024 NFL draft class
Yeah.
because I think it will rival that same draft class with Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, and Philip Rivers, and it'll go down as one of the best draft classes we've seen as far as quarterbacks.
In year two of these guys, and obviously Jaden Daniels and the injuries has been a disappointment this year. But the other three guys, you have a 2 seed for the Chicago Bears, the 1 seed in the Denver Broncos, and the 2 seed for the New England Patriots.
Yep.
With those three quarterbacks, to have that in year two for all of these guys is pretty insane. So it's been fun to watch, and it's been nice to see the young guys come in, and all three of them after, Bo had a decent year, but Drake and Caleb both come back in year two and come out firing. Great to see both teams in the second seed, and I don't think that's ever happened before with that with those young quarterbacks. So it'll be fun to see who plays the best in the postseason.